Um, this is the same time that the DAPL pipeline protest and everything was going on, and just revolution, indigenous revolution, was in the air. Like, people would, you know, nowadays we have Facebook and stuff like that. Well, back then it was Facebook and stuff and Twitter and everything. And it was just live. It was like everybody was round up ready to do this. And so Two Clouds, he was at the helm. So I guess I'm not sure of the timeline if he came up there while the chief and his partner, Owl or whomever, I don't know who else was with them, but went up there to South Dakota, to stand with Standing Rock. And so when they came back down, I'm not sure if that was while Two was doing the classes, they came back, or if it was right after. I don't remember. But nonetheless, they said, hey, we should do the same thing, because they had Two there saying, all right, what we about to do? And so they decided to start on the religious land. They decided to name it the Split Rock Sweetwater Prayer Camp, and Two Clouds was the camp leader. And from there, I will let you do your own research. You can Google Two Clouds Ramapo, and all this stuff is going to come up. I'm going to say this to you: as in any group, the chief or the president or whomever is the figurehead, but everything that was being done was from Two Clouds, and Chief Perry was just the figurehead. But in a lot of the videos and articles and stuff like that, you will see Two Clouds is being interviewed and whatnot, and his words are being used. And even if Chief Perry would come along, because Two had become the spokesperson also for the Ramapo. And sometimes or a lot of the times, when the chief would be called to come and speak at a place, he would bring Two Clouds, because Two was a scholar, he was a historian, and he was very articulate in his speech, and just charming. He could and this is all 24, he could speak and relate to people no matter what their status, their position, or anything like that. And so he would bring Two, and Two would, just look at some of the lectures with the two of them. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyway, so all that happened. What you will find if you do your research is that Two Clouds, because of Two Clouds, literally because of Two Clouds, he wrote up a document and everything, and saved that piece of land for them, which is why they now own it. And he also was instrumental in a movement that was already taking place in stopping a pipeline that was set to be laid it was going to be laid from Albany, New York to Linden, New Jersey, and it was going to go through Mahwah, and as well as through one of the Ramapo burial sites, where they have 1,000 ancestors buried. And so Two was very instrumental in that. He traveled all over the place talking, speaking. He spoke at the UN, at one of the environmental conferences. He spoke at a lot of educational institutions like NYU and different places. He actually was a consultant for Ramapo College, which is on the Ramapo Indian land. Ramapo College not being affiliated with the tribe. They are, all of the Ramapo stuff that's unaffiliated with the tribe, it's spelled Ramapo. And so he did all that, and then, he began fighting in court, finding the treaties and deeds and stuff like that, and fighting in court winning back dozens and dozens of acres of land that had been stolen from the Ramapo. He reclaimed that. He also inspired a couple of landowners who had bought the land fair and square. You know, they had empathy for the situation because of Two Clouds, and they, you know, donated some of their land. They tried to give land to Two Clouds for himself, but he like will never take it because he said the land doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the people. He lived on the first parcel of land there for nearly 2 years through 2 winters in order to stop the Polo Club, the Polo HOA from, there was just a lot of stuff going on back then. The Polo Club and the town were working in cahoots to, now that he had cemented the land for them, but now they were trying to dictate how they could use the land. They didn't want them gathering there for religious ceremonies or for anything. It was just a lot of craziness, and Two, in protest, stayed there and they fought in court over and over and over again. You can find all of this stuff online. And, you know, they were hitting them with daily fines of $12,500 and all that kind of stuff. So because of Two, again, being at the helm, even though the chief is the one who was getting, you know, some of the kudos, it was all my son. And so he just did so many things for the Ramapo, including they were no longer being seen as Jackson Whites and as mountain savages and like inbreds and stuff like that. They now started getting, because of my son, and now have a seat at the table and respect and allyship of thousands, you know, allyships of indigenous organizations and people who have high status because of my son. And again, if it was not because of Two Clouds, how come it never happened before that? It never happened until he came up there. So he just did a whole lot of things for the people, but unfortunately, there was a lot of jealousy and envy, and some of them murdered him. Two Clouds served the Ramapo as in many positions, and including secretary, tribal secretary, council person, just in a lot of aspects, official spokesperson. And about a month before he was murdered, he was elected war chief. And so there's this dude who, although he has a white mother and was raised by white folks, he feels that he has the authority to come after Afro-Indigenous people, Lenape, here on the East Coast primarily, I guess, and claim that they are pretendians and all that sort of thing. And although he was pretending to be the hereditary chief of the Oklahoma Delaware, he came up there on the land. He sneaked up there on the land and started, you know, making dangerous threats towards the tribe. So that was mid-June. And so a couple of weeks later, about 3 weeks later, another Afro-Indigenous person who is rallied as being some sort of great indigenous activist, actually, so far as we have been able to find, set my son up, told him that she had put together a meeting up in Mashpee for my son to garner support against this jerk who came up there causing trouble. And so the weekend of July 4th, my son went up there. He drove, it's on a regular day, it's 4 hours between Mahwah and Mashpee. And so this was the 4th of July weekend. He went up there believing that there was going to be a meeting, but there was not. And so when he drove back down, on the 2nd, July 2nd, and about 18 hours later, he went missing. And he was found on July 6th. He went missing on July 3rd. He was found July 6th. Dead, decomposed, missing an eye, missing his ears, missing the lower half of his face. And he had been dumped in that same water, on that same religious land that he actually saved for them. And then they tried to stage the scene by overturning his canoe. I'm going to re-upload a bunch of the videos I had on my other channel so people can see. But suffice to say, I knew from the beginning that he had been murdered when I first got, when I first made the call. Because none of them called me to let me know my son had been found dead hours before. And so, my son and I had spoken twice the day before. So he told me some information where I knew immediately he had been murdered. And so what we have come to find in the nearly 3 years since then is that not only was I right, because he had no signs or symptoms of having drowned. I have a video where I called the canoe manufacturer, and they confirmed that that 16-foot canoe was specifically made for whitewater rafting and would not have flipped over, even if somebody flips out of it. I had already known this because I spoke with an actual canoeist, an expert canoeist, and he assured me that canoes don't flip over if you fall out of them. But I needed to bring proof to the people, right? We've also found out, so we know that they indeed did stage the scene and that he was murdered elsewhere and dumped there. We also know that in the police operations report, the Mahwah Police Department states that they got a call from 2 passersby who accidentally stumbled upon my son and called 911 for help. We know that that's not true. The operations report was time-stamped at 10:30 something that morning. The 911 transcripts show that the first call did not come in until nearly an hour and a half later. Excuse me, I'm a little shaky because it's cold out here. So the first call did not come until nearly an hour and a half later, 80 minutes later, and it was not from a civilian, it was from a police officer. And we know from both of those documents that they decided before they even left the scene from being with my son alone for nearly an hour and a half doing Lord knows what, that they had decided before even leaving him that there was not going to be a police investigation. And that included not assessing the cameras. There are 4 cameras. There's one way in, one way out. The same entrance is the entrance is this exit. And there are 4, and it's a narrow bridge, about maybe 15, 18 feet long bridge or something like that. And it's narrow, only 1 car at a time. And there are 4 cameras there, 2 showing everyone who comes in, 2 showing everyone who goes out. They didn't even look at those. We also know that the chief, the next day, sent an official letter to the medical examiner and not the police department, giving, first of all, lying, saying that I was on board with it, as if he had spoken to me, and that he wanted to have a full forensics investigation done on my son's body, and he wanted the information sent to him, the results sent to him, and that I was on board. That was a lie. We hadn't talked at all. And Also, I would never have given him that authority. You'll find out as you peruse my social medias, or if any of you get to know me or already know me, I ain't that type of chick. I don't give nobody authority over any of my children, nor myself. And I for sure as hell wouldn't have given it to him, because my son already told me about him. And for a long time, they had big beef for a very, very long time. There's no way in hell. Also, we are Muslim. We don't, in Islam, we do not do autopsies and things unless we believe that there is foul play involved in a person's death, which is why I did on my own before I even knew about this letter, which is why I did allow for them to do the autopsies, because I knew immediately they had been killed or murdered. They tried to kill him. Never gonna happen. So yeah, that's what the chief had done, and in that letter he gave 5 different reasons why my son could have been dead. One of those reasons was about the guy, that this guy had come up there and had been issuing threats. And in this letter, the tribal chief stated that he had already filed a civil complaint and I think a criminal complaint against this guy that was already on file. So, but he never sent this letter to the police department. He also stated that he believed that my son had a heart attack the year before, which was not true. He also stated that he didn't think my son could swim well, which was not true. My son was an avid canoeist, and that particular water where he was found, again, it was always low to begin with, but during that season it's always really low. So yeah, he said those things. Oddly enough, he didn't mention anything about that he might have been drunk, because that was the rumor that he was spreading for months and months and months and months and months, that my son had been drunk and essentially killed himself because he got in a boat drunk. So all these things were untrue, and but nonetheless, the county medical examiner wrote on the official autopsy report. First of all, he did not include the missing parts of my son's face. There's nowhere on the autopsy to be found. The only reason I know is because I sent for the photos, which the county medical examiner's office, the supervisor there, calls me herself trying to talk me out of actually getting, but I was like, give me them photos. And so they created that I got the photos, and that I was very well acquainted with Miss Mamie Till Mobley. I knew what I needed to do. So yeah, the county medical examiner didn't include that crucial information on the autopsy report. But on top of that, despite the his forensic scientific examination and laboratory assessments, he put on there that my son had died from drowning, although the lab report distinctly shows that there was no evidence of a drowning. And he also put that there was, even though the cardiology portion of the report distinctly shows that my son had not died of a heart attack, and that he had never had any heart attacks, because like there's no scar tissue and the different things that come with having a heart attack. There was no evidence of any of that. Despite that, he put that in the gross findings.